Teachers in the Detroit Public School Community District had their first day today, hours after their union reported it had come to a tentative agreement with the district on a new contract.
Their previous two-year contract expired at midnight, and the announcement came just before that deadline. Right now, the Detroit Federation of Teachers is holding a special informational meeting, and voting will take place between now and Thursday.
So joining us right now is Sherry Gay-Danyogo, a member of the Detroit School Board. So thank you for joining us this evening, Sherry. So first off, teachers, they're learning the details of this proposal at this hour right now. I guess, do we know what's actually in that?
So first of all, I have to thank you for having me on and thank our DFT leadership, our president, Lumpkins, for working hard, working through this, and her vice president. Thank our president of the Detroit School Board and all of our members that were committed to doing this. You know, there's been some long hours that's gone into this. They have just been meeting now for about 45 minutes. And we have agreed as board members to not go into the details and to respect the process of more than 4,300 members of DFT. And it's not just teachers, by the way. It's all of the union staff, paraprofessionals, a number of staff members that are a part of the union that are hearing for the first time and allowing that information to sink in and get those details. And so you have to imagine with that large of a staff, just talking about it within the last 45 minutes, they haven't gotten that far. But the one thing we do know, that ratification process opens tonight and it ends on Thursday. And so after we've respected the process of labor leadership and all of those rank and file members to have an opportunity to hear all the details, ask all the questions before they actually vote to finalize this, we want to make sure that we respect that process.
Yeah.
Sure. So without going into the details, Sherry, a sticking point here has been wages. And there's been a lot of conversation about comparing the wages in Detroit public schools to neighboring districts. So without telling us the details, can you tell us, does it at least address that issue? So
we've been committed to that. The leadership at DPS has been committed to that. We've talked in various meetings about reaching towards a 4%, a 5% mark of increasement, and making sure that we address those needs that exist in the classroom, the support around every student, special needs areas. And so I think what we'll see is something that we all have agreed that is a point of collaboration. It is not a panacea. It is not everything that we want, but I think it certainly gets us moving in the right direction to make sure that we are able to be competitive with contiguous districts. We know that a number of our staff members have stayed with the district 15, 20 years under emergency managers, changing leadership, loaning the district money. And so certainly it was not, their commitment has not always been about money, but certainly we want to make sure that they know that they are appreciated and they are respected. And in this agreement, I think we see a place where we've reached a great compromise.
Now, some union members, they feel as if they weren't a part of the conversation. So I guess, how do you think that they're going to be feeling about this outcome?
Well, you know, like I said, it is not perfect, but I think it moves the needle for a number of all staff members that are a part of DFT. I have to, though, say, though, as someone who would staunchly believe in labor and the support that it brings, their president worked really hard to make sure that she moved the needle for all staff members. But we're going to have to see now, all staff members look at the legislation that our governor just recently passed, allowing for the advancement of collective bargaining, which was at one point taken away from us, and now having an opportunity to now reinvest in our unions, because everybody benefits from labor, whether they pay their dues or not. And so I'm hopeful that all 4,000 plus members will now see how hard their president worked for them, and the entire executive team at DFT, and now realize we all must carry the torch and the burden together so that we all win together. So it won't be perfect, but I think that there's some progress for every level of staff that is working as DFT leadership.
So teachers were supposed to report back today and students report next Monday, correct?
The 28th, correct.
Okay, so next week. What happens if this falls apart before then? What do we see next week?
Well, I'm very optimistic, and I try to hope for the best and always have a plan B in place. But I think we've been very intentional about having these ongoing conversations. I know I, myself, the president of the school board, Angela Peterson Mayberry, we've been on several phone calls several times within the week, talking to the president, trying to get the dynamics. The board has had special meetings where we've come together even after our board meeting, even a follow-up board meeting. So we've been very intentional in working through to make sure that we've reached a compromise. I believe strongly in my heart our schools are going to start in time. This is agreement that moves the needle in the right direction. It isn't everything, but I will say that all of our board members are committed to supporting our staff, but more than anything, making sure that we stabilize our district so that our schools start on time. And that's something that I'm celebrating in advance, that our schools are going to start on time. But I think we have to also take a conversation to Lansing and talk about equitable funding, because DPS does not receive the same commitment or investment that many of our schools. Now, we know because of COVID, we receive additional funding. We have Title I dollars as well. But those dollars always can't be used. They're one-time funds. We need to make sure that we address and equalize funding across the state of Michigan. So some of the hardest hit districts, and I don't mean to call anybody out, but West Bloomfield, Canton, Livonia, all these districts receive far more than DPS does. And so we're expecting to have these conversations with our members of the legislature to make sure that they advocate for equitable funding across the board, because what happens in the heart of Detroit, happens to the rest of the state.
Well, we will be following any conversations that are had. Of course, we hope school does start next week. We'll be following those developments as well. Detroit School Board member Sherry Gay Danyogo, thank you as always for joining us.
Thank you.